Good morning. It's Sunday, August 23rd, 2015. And I wanted to tell you about a dream I had this morning. I mentioned to you that some of the forces working against me can actually manufacture dreams that are really strange and bizarre. I'm probably not supposed to figure out that they're manufactured. And then when I go and say this, obviously anyone who I might tell it to is going to think, well, it's just a product of your subconscious and paranoia, etc. Which is not. They can actually manufacture dreams for you. One of them was with a guy in a military uniform, acting weird with some kind of plastic things on his back and his legs and arms. There have been a couple where there were more than a couple. There have been a few, I think at least 4, where they baited me into a pedophilia encounter. There have been 2 or 3 where they tried to bait me into a gay encounter. And I had one this morning that reminded me of a few things, so I wanted to mention it. And it took place at a suburban home, inside and outside of it. And it was like kind of a threatening situation. And it ended with someone saying, don't mess with me again or you're going to get hurt. Okay. I started hearing threats in the spring of 2009, I think, is when I heard the first death threat. And I think it was after the 3rd threat. It was very early on that I realized I was subject to a mind control thing. And it was after the 3rd or 4th threat that I realized that, what would you need a series of threats for if you were actually going to do something? I figured out that it was just a series of threats meant to make me scared. And, I'm from Niles, which is near Youngstown, and I lived in New York for a while. And, there are people there who really do stuff. They don't just use Photoshop and video manufacturing technologies to transmit things into your head. They really do some things, and the kind of people I'm talking about. And there's rarely a threat. If they're going to do something, they just do it. On occasion, I think if you have the right friends, perhaps, and what you did wasn't that egregious to them, then there might be a threat. Something effective. You're barking up the wrong tree. If you don't stop, you're going to end up in a box. I think I may have overheard one of those delivered to someone. It's actually somewhere along the way. But anyway, the threats. People who actually do stuff don't just transmit dreams into your head. But what this all reminded me of was 3 stories that I haven't talked about. Okay. And the first one occurred when I first got on food stamps here in San Francisco. Which I think was around, the end of 2012, maybe earlier. And when you get on food stamps, they give you a list of places where you can buy hot food. Some people, if you have a place where you can cook, they won't give you, the hot food portion. All you can use it as a grocery store. But I was homeless at the time, so I got the hot food stuff. It has like Subway and Burger King, and it has a couple pizza shops around town. And I'll tell you, parenthetically, it's tough to find a decent slice of pizza in this town. I'm sure Ed DeBartolo would probably concur on that. But anyway, I found that there was a pizza shop over on Polk Street near Geary. And it's not a very nice neighborhood. Okay, there's a homeless shelter right down the block. Less than a block away, actually. And it's, it's a little rough around there. And I don't think I'd ever been over to that block yet at that point. It was the first time I'd ever gone into that establishment, that's for sure, after I found out about it on the EBT list that, the following scenario occurred. And I went in, and this place is very small. You walk in, and there's just a little space, like maybe a 10 by 10 square, a little bigger than that, 15 by 15 maybe. And you walk up to the counter, and you order, and there are 2 tables right in front of a big glass window. Okay, so I went in and I got a slice of pizza, and I sat down on one of those tables in front of the window. And while I was sitting there, and this is before I knew what was going on, I was just, this is when I was really confused and stuff. And I was sitting there eating my pizza, and I swear to you, some guy walked up in front of the window and he stood there for a minute. And he turned around, so his back was to me, and he was facing the other side of the street directly. And he had his hands on his hips, and he looked up at the top floors of the building across the street, and he went like this. Now, you know, since I figured out this digital glitch face stuff, I don't know whether anything I see is actually real or not. You know, it's been suggested to me that my life is a Truman Show. There's been a lot of different things that have been suggested to me. But I'll tell you this by way of description. I played Division I basketball. And when I was doing that, you know, we shared a training facility with all the other athletes, including the football players and the baseball players. I played against some fellows who went to the NBA, including Bobby Phills, who's quite a specimen himself, was. You know, I've been around some top-notch athletes. You know, the dorms in Nickel State, it was the basketball players and baseball players, and another dorm with baseball players, and the football players dorm right in a row. And there were some football players, I think, in the other dorm on the other side of us. You know, it was like the athletes' row right there. So I've seen some people who are incredibly impressive. I've spent a lifetime watching sports. You know, I know what an incredibly well-conditioned athlete looks like when I see one. And I'll tell you, I've never, ever, ever seen anyone that was even close to looking as much of a perfect physical specimen badass as this guy. It was perfectly obvious to me that he'd never done a steroid in his life. He was natural, carved stone. Okay, and he wasn't like, you know, he had low body fat, but he wasn't like a roided up bodybuilder with just a tiny little thin layer of rubbery skin on top of their oversized muscles. He was completely natural and rock hard. And what's interesting about it is I know that at upper level security and law enforcement, you know, they look for people who have certain looks in their face. I've learned these things. I've seen, you know, when you go to like the announcement of the Chinese New Year parade in San Francisco they have every year where the mayor's there and some other people, they have all the best looking cops there, you know, stuff like that. And I've seen some other guys in the Secret Service. I found what they do with them is they want someone who's kind of big and strong but has like a nice guy face. This guy was tripped out. He kind of had like a nice guy look going on, you know, like jeans and a t-shirt, short sleeve, it might have been a v-neck, had like one band, a single tattoo band around his arm, I think. And he looked real casual and, you know, kind of mostly presented the aura of a nice guy. But, you know, he had a pretty serious look on his face. And what just struck me about it was, and I'll never forget it, is his face actually reminded me of an eagle. There was nothing else that I thought of. I looked at this guy and I saw an eagle. Like his nose had a slight hook to it, and his eyebrows kind of pointed down slightly towards the middle, like it had just a built-in kind of, you know, serious look to it while he was doing this. You know, a lot of people who are interested in that kind of thing, like top-level military operatives and everything, and covert operatives, they like talking about Navy SEALs and Green Berets and, you know, Army Rangers and all those guys. I don't know what the elite Marines are called, but, you know, those guys are all real serious stuff. But I read something in the news a few years ago about a top-level joint military, very special unit. I think it's called JSAC, Joint Special Operations Unit, something like that. I'm not sure, but it's the top. It's the cream of the crop. It's the cream of the crop. The guys that like the only people they answer to are the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the President. I think they're the elite. If I had to guess, I would definitely say this guy was one of them. Uh, and if you're having a hard time envisioning what his face looked like, as I told you, it was something like this.